hold on. I am 53 pages into this book, which, just to say, fucking loving it. But I'm having a slight autistic crisis because I'm having one of those moments where I learn something that I feel like I should have known. But Keedie says, I know that when allistics are going to be talking about the weather, they're not actually making mind-numbing small talk, they're expressing their mental state. It was grey when I woke up, but it's much nicer now, can mean that they felt negatively about the morning, but are starting to gain more peace. Is this true? Are the neurotypicals literally talking in code when they talk about the weather? Like, I thought they were just like, I haven't ever noticed someone say it's been like raining or dark when it hasn't been. So like, do we only do it when the weather happens to coincide? Like, but then I suppose we notice these sort of things, don't we? Like, you would be more likely to notice the weather shit if you feel shit, and therefore you would talk about it. I don't like this. I don't like this. Anyway, I'm going back to the book. Also, I don't know if you can hear my neighbours screaming next door, but I can, which, funnily enough, there's a moment in the book where Keedie talks about being able to hear the neighbours' TV and they're listening to the news. Yeah, I can hear my neighbours screaming and yelling and slamming doors, and it's fabulous. It's been a great background soundtrack to reading, so. You know, I was expecting this to be a very fun, exciting little reading vlog, a really great kickstart back into booktube, and all that's happening is I'm trying to read my fucking book and the neighbours, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but they are screaming, they are slamming things. Like, do you mind? I don't think you'll be able to hear them, but I can hear them. I'm trying to read Keedie. Also, I realise it's quite dark now, and it looks like from the two time-lapse clips that I've just sat and read all day. I haven't. I read for like, my voice. I read for like 10 minutes, and then I really had to go and clean some rat cages, and I've got rat babies at the minute. If you don't know, I own and breed rats, so I have a bunch of 2 and 3 week old kittens at the minute. Oh, I think we're shouting outside now. So yeah, the kittens needed a cage upgrade, and then I needed to go grocery shopping because I did not have any food. So it's been a few hours and I am now hoping to settle in and read. They're shouting outside. So when I picked up the camera to start filming this video, I had envisioned it being a bit different. I have barely read this year. I mean, I've read a lot compared to probably most people, but for me it was a lot less, and that was by design. I didn't want to put pressure on myself, it's a whole other thing. But I'd been slumping for ages, and I was like, right, cool, we're gonna take a couple days to read this book. It'll be a proper little vlog. Not that I was expecting to do very much, but I was like, you know, maybe I'll like show you the rats and whatnot. And I also wanted it to be like a reading vlog where I check in and I share my thoughts and maybe make it a little bit spoilery. And because of that, I was planning to post it around about publication day, so that obviously people could watch it after reading the book. I fucking read the whole thing, haven't I? I've literally sat down and just read the whole thing cover to cover. Needless to say, I fucking loved it. Like, that's why. Even when I've had moments where I was like, oh, like I could say something, I was like, no, we want to read this book, we just need to read it. It was like, I just hyper focused, taken over, I had to read it, and needless to say, I fucking loved it. It was beyond a 5-star read for me, and I feel blasphemous saying it, but in some ways I prefer it to A Kind of Spark. And it's nothing to do with plot, storyline, anything. It is just purely two reasons. One, I relate more to Keedie, and obviously this follows Keedie, and therefore I was just more connected and more engaged, and it means more to me on that level. But in a, like, sort of connected to that, when I read A Kind of Spark 3.5 years ago in the middle of lockdown, I was barely, if even, a year into my diagnosis, and I really didn't know a lot about autism. Like, I got my diagnosis, right, because I was struggling. We're not going to go into too much detail, but I was very, very struggling at the time. Very, very struggling, really struggling at words. I was just not having a good time. And I distinctly remember saying to my mum, because I'd kind of tried to Google some things, as you do, and you know, you get all these different diagnoses come up. And I'd read like a snippet of something on autism, and I said to my mum, I can't remember my exact words, but it was along the lines of, I feel like I'm autistic, but I know I'm not, because we would know if I was, but I feel like I've got something like that. And so we made a doctor's appointment, and I didn't even say that to the doctor. I was just like, look, I'm struggling, I feel like something's going on, like, you know, just everything's difficult. My mum mentioned the word meltdowns, and at that point she was like, I'm gonna stop you there. I think you could be autistic. Can I put you forward for like a referral? And I was like, okay. And I really didn't look into it much. Like, I didn't research anything. Like, I didn't find, I think I joined like a couple Facebook groups, but like, I knew nothing about autism, and especially autism in girls or AFAB people. I don't know if I'm a girl, like, I'm just a person, that's a whole auti gender, who knows. Anyway, you know, I didn't know about autism in AFAB people, and I just kind of went through it, and I went to my diagnosis, and that's a whole other story. I got my diagnosis, and then I just didn't do anything with it, because I just was like, I just need to take like a fucking minute to just, you know, chill out and just not stress, like digest it. And I digested it, but I never fully processed it, and I never thought to start learning. I never thought to, you know, figure myself out. And then this book fell into my lap, and that was my kind of spark that started me on this like journey of understanding myself as an autistic person, understanding what that means for me, understanding my support needs. And I'll be honest with you, 3.5 years later into this journey, I still don't have a fucking clue. Like, my Instagram bio is literally figuring the fuck out who I am, because I don't know. I forget, how old am I? 27. I spent 24 years of my life. 24? Yeah, 24 years of my, no. 22 years of my life. I spent 22 years of my life not knowing I was autistic, but knowing that I didn't fit in, and having all the struggles of an autistic kid, an autistic teenager, an autistic young adult, a young autistic person in the workplace, and none of the support. And it's a lot to unpack. Like, I don't know if I've ever unmasked. Like, I feel I don't know how. Like, it's a whole process. And so I have so much thanks to Elle and A Kind of Spark for doing that, because I'm pretty sure it's the first, I'm certain it's the first book with an autistic character by an autistic author that I read after my diagnosis, but I honestly think it could be the first one, like, ever, at least the first that I was like aware of. But it was definitely, I'm sure, the first like post-diagnosis, and it really just set everything in motion for me to get to this point where, you know, I might not have this like all-encompassing knowledge, but I have a better understanding and a better confidence in myself. And it's just full circle, because at the time, you know, when I read it the first time, I didn't fully connect with Addie, and a lot of Addie's experiences didn't match mine, but of course Addie knew she was autistic, and so there's going to be that difference there. It's like a full circle moment for me, reading A Kind of Spark, not really knowing very much, to then be this far into the journey and reading Keedie And although, you know, because at the time, like, obviously I was a recently diagnosed adult reading about a diagnosed kid who they're all, well, where obviously those experiences aren't going to fully overlap. There'll be things that I would be like, oh, I relate to that, but in a different context. But I now have the I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore. I've now done the work. I've started some of the work anyway on myself. I'm in a different place now, and just something about reading this book now at this point. Oh, I just don't know. I don't even know what point I'm trying to make. Just that I loved this. I related to it so much, to Keedie. Even Addie, like, this is the thing, right? Like, as much as like 3.5 year ago me didn't fully connect to Addie, there are bits of Addie as a 6-year-old in here that I'm like, I get you. I get you. And I just don't even know. I'm just so grateful that we have these books, that we have Elle writing these books. Not just the Juniper books, but all of Elle's books so far. Oh my god, Some Like It Cold. Someone get that in my hands. Like, who at Pan Macmillan do I need to, like, suck up to? I was gonna say bribe, but like, do we accept bribes? If you accept bribes, let's chat. Like, oh my gosh. But I'm so grateful to Nights Off, to Elle, to the PR team for sending me a copy of this. Like, even like previous of Elle's books, like when I've been obviously dipping in and out of BookTube, even when I've been on big breaks from content creating, these guys have always been so generous to me, and I'm so grateful to it, because these books really do mean so much to me. And I wish I could formulate my thoughts better, because like I just can't process right now. But yeah, April 4th, pre-order it now, put it in your calendars. Yeah, this was the best day. So I'll see you guys soon, hopefully. I make no promises.